Welcome to the Water Tribune Virtual Pavilion. We are broadcasting from Zaragoza, Spain, and we are 8 countries working together today towards the same goal. We want to talk very openly, very bluntly about water in a different way.
In the afternoon, we were interested in learning about water-related extremes, droughts and floods. And we learned that many places in the world are suffering from droughts, which are pervasive, long-lasting, and they affect large extensions. And really, they pose great challenges to managers to make sure the water will be available as we always would like it to be. In addition, we learned about floods, and we heard that the hydrological cycle is accelerated. Because we are warmer, there is more moisture in the air, and when it rains more intensely. And that creates many problems in many areas of the world.
Habiba, I'm returning the microphones to you there in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Let me turn to Singapore now. Going through Singapore to me is a tropical lush country. So it seems a bit surprising that you as a country would think about dealing with climate change and preparing for climate change. Mr. Chang?
Thank you, Habibi. My name is Chen Wee. I'm actually the Deputy Director in the Public Utilities Board, PUB Singapore. We are basically the National Water Agency for Singapore. About 7-8 years ago, the government decided to bring together all the different services, the water, the drainage, the sewage service under one umbrella, and that was the PUB. So today, the agency itself, we look after the stormwater, drinking water, and also the treatment of sewage, and more than that, we actually do more than that. We actually try to short-circuit the water loop by actually reclaiming back that used water. We call it used water. We don't call it sewage.
Thailand, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Happy. This is Anon Snitwong from Chulalongkorn University. And I think from your questions about the perception of Thailand and Southeast Asia in general about climate change is still pretty much focused on the change in the mean climate, and still less on the variability and extremes.
Indonesia.
My question is that, is there any discussion to also get some carbon money for water resources project that reduce the emission to the atmosphere? Like, for instance, replacing the pump irrigation with the gravity irrigation, or building hydropower.
Actually, we are a local civil society organization who also follow up the how what's going on with climate change, and then actually Laos, we would like to do something more. Let me say something like that first. Tangible information for people in a community, and talking about climate change. You know, the only person who in charge in government and also civil society organization who can follow up the climate change.
Singapore has demonstrated and managed to balance supply and demand side of the whole water management equation, including the readiness against climate extremes. And what you see is with a solid educational program, or let's say public awareness program, you have not used climate change as such as an argument for readiness of the society, but you have provided technologies You have mobilized demand side, consumption and leakage and all these things at the household level through education to these people, providing them support. So you have prepared people in saving water, dealing better with water, and I think that's the best protection against any sort of variance or variability in water management.
Zaragoza, it's all yours.
Might be available to deal with the impacts of climate change, both from the supply side and from the demand side. But the discussion concentrated more on the state of the art of the science that is available. What are the climate signals that the different areas of research are producing? And all of them, of course, reflect that major issues in terms of water availability and water stress in many parts of the world that are predicted. But there is still a long gap between these long-term predictions for 2050 and 2070 to what our client countries need to do in the very short term. So it's a very interesting discussion for us. It's for World Bank. And we look forward to the questions that we might have from our.
Let me just sort of wrap it up with a few sort of concluding comments, both from what I heard, but also bringing in some other issues that you referred to. Nick Stern said climate change is one of the biggest global market failures that we have experienced to date. Basically, markets didn't find a solution, which is why we are where we are in terms of the greenhouse gas emissions. One of the things that you pointed out is that for many countries, climate change is a reality now. Many people talk about the fact that they are experiencing changing conditions. And in a way, you can say that the past is not a good guide to the future. So whatever farming practices you might have done in the past may not be something that you could continue to do so in the future. Another point that was raised is basically extremes and their impacts are a concern, both in terms of temperature in sea level rise, but also changes in the seasonal water flows for both rural and urban population and ecosystems. That will have an impact on people's lifestyles. For example, can farmers really stop being farmers? Can we live in society where we don't carry on doing what our parents and grandparents were doing? Can we change our behaviors enough to, in fact, use less water or use water more efficiently? And these are the questions that we don't necessarily have answers to. We can definitely share and learn from each other, but we can also use some kind of technological and behavioral approaches to plan better for the future, taking climate change as one of the pressures and only one of the pressures along with all the other things that are happening. Some of you referred to the other multiple pressures that occur as part of human activities, that occur as part of natural changes in ecosystems and so on. And we really need to think of adaptation, not just climate change, but adaptation to all the things that are happening in any location. So it has to be location specific. We can definitely learn from each other and bring those things in, but don't forget that it's not just adaptation to climate change. I want to try to make sure that we don't leave the room thinking climate change is a doom and gloom. To me, climate change is actually an opportunity to do development better, to do capacity development even better than we have in the past. We've tended to take a one problem approach, trying to find a solution to that. We have to be a little bit smarter, and let's use climate change as really a new way, a new excuse for actually doing things that we should have done better in the last 30 years or so. So again, thank you very much for being part of this conversation. I've enjoyed it. I didn't realize it was 3 o'clock and now it's 6 o'clock. So it's been fun getting up, and it's been fun seeing some old faces, meeting some new friends, and also being back in Southeast Asia, or at least Pacific and Southeast Asia. So thank you again, and goodbye.